And if you leave this room, you can never leave this room.
Welcome to Watch Mojo, and today we're counting down our picks for the top 10 horror movies you forgot were awesome.
I know you don't want to hurt me, Grant.
You shamed me.
For this list, we'll be looking at horror movies that deserve a rewatch. These films could have been popular or well-regarded at the time of their release and then faded into obscurity, been panned upon release but are actually pretty good looking back, or have enthusiastic cult followings but are lacking mainstream recognition. Do you have a favorite forgotten gem that you feel should have made the cut? Let us know in the comments. Number 10, Wolf Creek.
What do you actually do? Now.
Oh, I can tell you, but then I'd have to kill you.
There aren't too many Australian entries in the classic horror canon, but one film that should definitely be considered is Wolf Creek, helping to revitalize the grindhouse aesthetic that had been in the midst of a resurgence upon its release. Wolf Creek stands out from many of its contemporaries as a genuinely frightening piece of modern slasher cinema. The plot is razor thin, focusing on three backpackers exploring the Australian outback who are captured and menaced by a psychopathic killer named Mick.
That's not a knife. This is a knife.
While basic, the power of the film lies in its commitment to the grotesque, as it unsparingly details each of the tourists' experiences, switching perspectives as their individual plights become increasingly horrific. It ain't pretty, but it's an extremely effective potential future classic. Number 9, As Above, So Below. With the incredible setting of France's underground catacombs, As Above, So Below should have been a surefire horror hit. However, despite making a sizable splash upon its release, most people don't talk about this ambitious found footage journey through the 7 layers of hell.
Abandon all hope, ye who enter here.
With a much larger scope than many found footage films, and with a more deep and thoughtful plot, As Above, So Below is able to be both genuinely thought-provoking and utterly terrifying. While many horror movies would do the bare minimum with such a great setup, likely just having characters run away from humanoid zombie-esque monsters beneath the streets of Paris, As Above, So Below goes the extra mile, making it truly stand out. Number 8, Session 9.
You guys scared of the dark? Come on, over here.
In the wake of all the found footage horror films to come out following the release of the Blair Witch Project, Session 9 tastefully incorporated aspects of the subgenre into an extremely tense psychological thriller. While not technically a found footage movie, Session 9 uses recordings of its characters in order to help tell its story, which follows an asbestos abatement crew working in an abandoned asylum.
Can you tell me what happened that night in Lowell?
Nothing happened.
Mary, something did happen. That's why we have these sessions, to help you remember, so you can get better, okay?
No, I can't remember.
The film uses the recordings extremely well, as each revelation taken from the audio adds to the growing sense of dread that seems to permeate from every inch of the spooky asylum. Add in some believable performances and some inspired directing, and you've got a flick that's begging to be revisited.
And where do you live, Simon?
I live in the weak and the wounded.
Number 7, The People Under the Stairs. Wes Craven is a legendary horror director whose filmography is filled with both classic horror staples and obscure hidden gems in equal measure. One of Craven's seemingly forgotten movies is The People Under the Stairs.
It is time to clean house!
Total spring cleaning.
Craven showcases his fascination with traps, his interest in American social dynamics, and his outlandish breed of horror in this bizarre genre mashup.
We gotta be careful. Real careful.
The People Under the Stairs follows a young boy as his involvement in a break-in leads to the discovery that his family's landlords are completely insane and have a basement filled with mistreated and hungry children. It's offbeat, it's ghoulish, and it's totally absurd, but The People Under the Stairs is definitely worth revisiting.
You okay? I feel like $1 million.
Number 6. Scanners. Canadian horror icon David Cronenberg often aims to shock with his specific brand of body horror. In this respect, Scanners was very successful, horrifying audiences with this macabre sci-fi story about telepathic superpeople able to kill with merely a thought. At least one moment from Scanners is well remembered, as the practical effect head explosion scene is infamous amongst horror fans. But despite this and a small but loud cult following, Scanners is criminally absent from many horror discussions. Similar to Cronenberg's Videodrome, Scanners explores human beings' often horrific relationship to our own bodies and the bodies of others. It also features some fantastic performances and visual effects and showcases a legendary director in top form. Number 5. Frailty.
Listen, this may sound a little bit crazy, but I know who the goddamn killer is.
Bill Paxton's directorial debut, Frailty is one of many horror movies to come out in the early 2000s that seems to have been mostly forgotten.
You didn't think anyone knew about that, did you?
Despite receiving positive reviews upon its release and starring Matthew McConaughey, many people are unaware of this thoughtful psychological thriller about a religious fanatic killer and his 2 sons.
May God welcome you and keep you.
The smaller budget of Frailty and the energetic direction of Paxton gives the film an indie movie feel that works well with its charmingly amateurish vibe. All in all, Frailty is a harrowing chiller with some weighty themes and a pretty shocking twist that holds up incredibly well upon rewatch.
Don't make any sense.
Yes, it does.
Number 4. 1408. We all have memories of seeing 1408 at movie rental stores and in DVD sales piles, but few people seem to ever actually talk about this underrated psychological thriller.
Even if you leave this room, you can never leave this room.
John Cusack plays a paranormal skeptic who spends the night in a haunted hotel room, only to find out that the story surrounding the room might not be a hoax after all. 1408 is filled with both ghost shenanigans and mind-bending existential horror with a touch of personal tragedy thrown in.
No! You bastard!
Cusack's performance is incredible, and the way that the film gradually shifts its focus from paranormal fear to fear based in the nature of reality itself makes it stand out from those other forgotten DVD rentals.
Nobody lasts more than an hour. Very effective.
Number 3. Pulse. As Japanese horror movies rose to prominence in the early 2000s, American audiences were entranced. One J-horror chiller that often gets overlooked and forgotten, however, is Pulse. Pulse, or Kairo, as it's known in Japanese, takes many of the tropes and themes that J-horror was known for, and dials up everything to 100. In Pulse, it's revealed that the afterlife has reached its capacity, and so ghosts are starting to spill out into our world, entering through the internet. The story is difficult to follow when observed literally, operating with dream logic and focusing more on themes and moments than an overarching plot. But watching Pulse is a lonely, haunting, and beautiful experience that demands your attention. Number 2. Near Dark. It's unfortunate that The Lost Boys came out the same year as Near Dark, because while both are classics in their own right, the success of Lost Boys sealed Near Dark's fate as the other punk rock vampire movie.
Howdy. I'm gonna separate your head from your shoulders. Hope you don't mind none.
It's a real shame because Near Dark is an incredible blood-sucking horror action romp that people would undoubtedly love if they gave it another chance. With a neo-western vibe and an edgy late 80s rock aesthetic, Near Dark has a great unique energy and an impressively realized world that pulls you in instantly. Balancing a handful of tones and styles, Near Dark is one forgotten classic that you just gotta sink your teeth into. Before we unveil our top pick, let's jog your memory a little bit with a few honorable mentions. Bug. This claustrophobic horror drama is relatively unknown.
Peter, are they bad?
Get off!
The Blob. The remake couldn't step out from the original shadow. The Loved Ones. Equal parts absurd and macabre.
Remove the king's crown, please, Daddy.
The Midnight Meat Train, a menacing thriller starring a pre-fame Bradley Cooper. The Faculty. Missing this cult classic should be a crime punishable by detention.
Before we continue, be sure to subscribe to our channel and ring the bell to get notified about our latest videos. You have the option to be notified for occasional videos or all of them. If you're on your phone, make sure you go into your settings and switch on notifications.
Number 1. In the Mouth of Madness.
Do you want some too, buddy?
When discussing a filmography as impressive as director John Carpenter's, it's unsurprising that some of his movies will be left out of the conversation. Similar to Prince of Darkness, In the Mouth of Madness came out a few years after Carpenter's initial 80s boom period, and it's egregiously overlooked. One of Carpenter's most bizarre and entrancing efforts, the film follows an insurance investigator as he tries to locate a missing author whose work seems to be causing madness in his readers and may be rewriting the fabric of reality itself.
Your world lies beyond that passage.
Inspired by the works of H.P. Lovecraft and Stephen King, In the Mouth of Madness is a contorted, surreal work of horror cinema that doesn't come close to getting the praise it deserves.
Do you agree with our picks? Check out this other recent clip from WatchMojo, and be sure to subscribe and ring the bell to be notified about our latest videos.